So let's start with the good and bad for Florida offensively. The last 2 seasons, Florida was not able to run the football. Florida tonight was able to run the football. As you can see, this ticker below, Florida's first downs. Now, these aren't 100% accurate because I didn't finish it all the way. But, I mean, Florida outgained Florida Atlantic by almost 200 yards. They ran the ball for over, my goodness, I'm trying to think. It was well over 200. They ran for over 400 yards, the most ever in a season opener. That was pretty impressive. One of the things I was really looking forward to for Florida was their ability to run the football. Florida had not been able to do that at all the last 2 seasons. It was more 70-30, 80-20 pass to run. And tonight it was definitely run to pass. Malik Davis got a lot of the carries. He had his first 100-yard game since 2017. You have to go way back, all the way back to when Jim McElwain was the head coach. That's been a long time, guys. That's been a long, long time. And Dameon Pierce didn't get a lot of carries in the first half. That seemed kind of odd. He played a little bit of special teams, I think. I think that was some kind of penalty or suspension in-house that Dan Mullen did not want to get let out. Because you saw right in the second half, he came in and he was playing, and he scored a touchdown. So I think that was something in-house. Let's see here. Dan Mullen really just said there's no QB battle. I don't know. That's going to be a big question going forward. Anthony Richardson, it's hard to not look at his talent, what he's able to do running the football. And I'm not going to be emotional and say here, well, Emory Johnson, he's no good. Let's get him off and throw Anthony Richardson. I'm going to slow down. I'm going to trust Dan Mullen's judgment. If you remember, not a lot of people knew Kyle Trask, and I think Kyle Trask did pretty well. And a lot of people thought Emory Jones should have started over Kyle Trask last season, and I think Dan Mullen made the right decision. He's had a pretty good resume, I would say, at the quarterback position. So I'm going to trust Dan Mullen right now. At the moment, it's just game 1. Let's not overreact. It's like the Jags in the preseason game in week 2. Everybody wants to overreact that they couldn't play well against Saints. It's a preseason game. I'm not overreacting. It's game 1. You experiment. You have a whole game. It's Florida Atlantic, a game you expected to win, and you did. Next week, you play South Florida. Let's see how that goes. And then you play Alabama in week 3. If you guys are watching Dan Mullen or the press conference, please let me know in the comments what he says. But it'll be definitely interesting to see what goes forward, because I don't see how you leave Anthony Richardson off the field. That's not to say he's going to start these next couple of weeks, but you can't deny his ability, what he's able to do to run with the football. I was at the game, and the dude, he's a dude. In football, there's guys and there's dudes, and he's definitely a dude. There was a play late in the fourth quarter. He made 2 dudes miss, and he hurdled a guy at his size. That's not normal. So let's start with the positive and negatives offensively for Florida. Florida, in the first half, you really had 5 drives, but 1 was cut short at halftime. In the first 4 drives, you drove right down the field. It went right down the field, touchdown, right down the field, touchdown. Able to run the ball, something Florida had not been able to do the last 2 seasons under Dan Mullen, because the offensive line wasn't that good. And well, it seems like Dan Mullen's going to have to run the football a lot this season, because, I mean, that worked for them all night. Passing, I wish I would have seen Dan Mullen throw the ball deep downfield more. But, it's the first game. Like I said before, I'm not going to overreact. And you went right down the field the first 2 drives, scored 2 touchdowns, and then I didn't understand the quarterback sneak on a 4th and goal at the 4-yard line, and I didn't. And then the interception, I think it was a miscommunication. It looked like the throw was a whip. He threw it a strike to the flat defender. I think the ball should have been lofted. I forget who the receiver was. But Florida's able to run the ball. Passing is a little bit of a question right now, so that's the positive and the negative so far. offensively. That was in the first half. I didn't understand Anthony Richardson getting a snap at the slot receiver in a Hail Mary. I mean, I don't understand why Xavier Henderson, Trent Whittemore. I mean, any of those guys, I understand, maybe if Dan Mullen wanted to say that there was I know Anthony Richardson's definitely one of the taller players, but I didn't understand. I mean, he's not a receiver, he's your backup quarterback. And I know he got mugged. It probably should have been a pass interference, but I didn't really understand that. Defensively, defense played really well. There were a lot of questions around the defense, especially after what happened a year ago. And what was the biggest question for Florida was up front. If you're not able to get pressure, live in the backfield, get pressure after the quarterback, and do things and stop the run, it doesn't matter how good your back end is, how good your linebackers are, how good Kyer Elam or any defensive back is, you're not going to be successful. And Florida did really well. They had let me look up the exact stats, but Zachary Carter had a good night. Bogle had a sack. Let me see here. It was so Florida ends up winning 35-14. They hold Florida Atlantic to 350 yards, less than 100 yards rushing, and they gave up, I guess it was right around 260 yards passing. Still looking to see exactly how many sacks there were. But yeah, Florida did really well up front. There was a lot of questions. There was a transfer that came Monday. He played today. Another transfer from Auburn, another transfer from Penn State. Florida played really, really well defensively, and I see a lot of comments around the Bama game. And yeah, that's going to be the biggest question. Florida has 2 practice games, and we'll see how they go because Alabama's going to be Alabama, and that defense did not take a step back. They seem like they're in midseason form already. I mean, Nick Saban is one of the greatest coaches, but he's the greatest coach in the history of college football in week 1. What you've seen him to do, especially in those neutral site games. So a lot of reaction I see from Anthony Richardson and Emory Jones. If you didn't see what I said at the beginning, I'm not overreacting. I'm not going to question Dan Mullen. So we'll see what he does next week in South Florida. That's not to say I have a lot of questions and have a lot of concerns with Emory Jones, but Anthony Richardson, you can't deny that what he's able to do with the football. I mean, you saw a 75-yard run. You saw him able to throw the ball. He ended up final with, with 160 yards rushing and was 3 for 80. He ended up 3 for 3. I think those last 5 incompletions were in that last drive where Florida recovered that onside kick after Florida Atlantic got that second touchdown. But yeah, I think Anthony Richardson, if I were to sit here and guess right now, today's date, September 4th, after the Florida Atlantic game, I would say Anthony Richardson is going to play a little bit more of a role than what Tebow did in 2006. If you remember in that game, in that season, Chris Leak was the starter, and Tebow came in a lot in the 3rd and short, 4th and short, and he played a huge role in that season. And I think Anthony Richardson right now, after the Florida Atlantic game, remember, I think that's the role that he's going to play in this season so far. You better question Mullen, same coach that started Felipe Franks over Kyle Trask. That is true. Now, I'll say Felipe Franks did have the experience when he came in. But, I mean, the guy had Alex Smith. He had Chris Leak. He's had Tim Tebow. He had Dak Prescott at Mississippi State, Fitzgerald at Mississippi State. That's not to say you can't question him, but, I mean, Felipe Franks did make an NFL roster. Kyle Trask should have started over him. Hindsight, everything is 2020. But that is true. Again, I'm not overreacting. We'll see what it's like next week. Dan Mullen and the offensive staff's going to chop it up, and they're going to play a not very good USF team next week that didn't look good against NC State. So essentially, another practice game before Florida plays Alabama. A lot of questions around Emory Jones and Anthony Richardson. I still think Emory Jones is going to be this is what I think is going to happen. And this is going to be up to the Alabama game. Emory Jones is going to get the start. He's going to be the guy next week. Emory Jones will get the start and be the guy against Alabama. And then after that Alabama game, if Emory Jones continues to not play well, I'm not saying he had a couple miscues tonight, and Anthony Richardson plays like he did tonight, I think Dan Mullen is going to have a serious question who's going to start. Now, I don't know if he's going to pull the Spurrier and just go one play, one quarterback, or if he's going to go drive by drive. That'll be interesting to see. But I'm not going to be one of these emotional people. And after one game, oh, Emory Jones, he's not the guy. Let's pull him. Richardson's good. Let's roll him. I trust Dan Mullen's judgment. I trust Dan Mullen's judgment all the way from Utah, when he was at Florida, Mississippi State, and back to Florida with Felipe Franks, with Kyle Trask, and now with Emory Jones. I think going into tonight, I was expecting Emory Jones to play the role of what Tim Tebow did in 2006. And if you go back to that season, Chris Leak was the guy. He was the guy. He was the dude. And a lot of people, if you remember, wanted Tim Tebow to play a lot more. And Tim Tebow was the workhorse in the third and short and fourth and short and got those runs because he was the bigger dude that could power through. And I think that's what Anthony Richardson is definitely going to be. It'll be interesting to see what Anthony Richardson is going to be, especially when he has to throw the ball. It seems like when he comes in, it seems like he's going to be more of a run dude. Again, this is his redshirt freshman season. He only played in 4 games. So we'll see. You're not playing a good team in South Florida next week, as they were rolled by NC State Thursday night. And then you get the test against Alabama. We have George here. Anthony Richardson is the new starting quarterback. Cam 2.0. I definitely see the Cam comparisons. Definitely has the same size. I would say, if you remember from Cam Newton in 2007, and I went to a lot of those games in 2007, Cam Newton came in late against that Tennessee game and that Vanderbilt game, and he would get those plays off tackle, and he would run over the defender. And Cam wasn't as elusive in that 2007 season. Anthony Richardson, this dude's not able to just run you over. This dude, he hurdled a guy. How are you at that size? What is his measurements? Like 6'3", 6'4", 240, and able to hurdle a dude? That's unfair. I expect him to have a pretty good season. How many plays he gets, that'll be interesting to see. That is true. Richardson was throwing it back up receivers, and personnel is definitely a huge thing to consider, especially when in a game like this when Florida has the game won, and it's important to consider personnel from both sides. Not only who your guys and they are on the outside, but the offensive line, what the other team is playing. And like I said, we'll definitely see what it's like going forward. And I've said this the entire time. You have 2 practice games in state, and then you play Alabama. So I'm not going to sit here and judge Dan Mullen. I don't agree with a lot of stuff that he should have, done this and that. I agree. I mean, I can question a lot of stuff, but Dan Mullen, I think he knows a lot more than what me and a lot of people are watching when it comes to offense, when it comes to quarterback, and we'll see what he does. He can see the film, he can adjust to South Florida, and throw some stuff before he plays Alabama, which is going to mean everything.